With the season's first snow falling in North America, we're hitting the road with adventure sports photographer Scott Rinkenberger and two of the world's best skiers. Along the way, we'll spend some time heli-skiing in the Monashee Mountains of British Columbia and line up for opening day at the Revelstoke Mountain Resort. To capture the action, we'll be shooting stills and this video on the new Olympus OM-D E-M1 Mark II and seeing just how much winter punishment it can take. Originally a professional skier, Scott Rinkenberger used his backcountry skills to transition into a career in photography. These days, Scott is Seattle-based and works as a fine art landscape and adventure photographer. He specializes in capturing the wildest and most pristine places that his legs, skis, and bike will carry him to. Part of Scott's business is creating content for outdoor adventure brands, which is why we're here.
So one of my clients is Eddie Bauer. They have a really constant need for imagery of their athletes out in the mountains. So as soon as snow started falling hard in North America, they tasked me with teaming up with a couple of their best athletes to find the deepest snow of the beginning of the season. Revelstoke came down as the spot to be. So we've got Lindsay Dyer and Drew Tabke. Drew won the World Championship a number of times, and Lindsay Dyer is one of the most respected and recognizable women in the sport.
The Olympus OM-D E-M1 Mark II is a pro-grade Micro Four Thirds camera aimed at professional and enthusiast photographers who need speed and durability in a compact package. Features like in-body 5-axis image stabilization and extensive weather sealing make it very useful in tough conditions.
Day one, we got to head up with Eagle Pass heli skiing, and they were having their opening day for the season. I believe their operation was the first to open in North America. When I go out, I'm usually trying to tell a whole story. Inside of the helicopter, the people and the scene there. And then once we get out into the field, sometimes that's focused in on just deep cold powder blowing over the athletes' heads. Other times it's putting them smaller in a bigger contextual scene. I just try and encapsulate the best, most aesthetic version of what's going on.
It's a little cold on top of the mountain, but feeling good. Kind of a little nervous to drop in with a bunch of professional skiers. I think we'll take it slow, find some good vantage points, and hopefully get some cool shots.
I got interested in Olympus cameras and in the Micro Four Thirds system really early on because they have a lot of the specs that you need out of an action sports camera in terms of speed and durability, but they are half the size and half the weight of the big SLR kits that I carry around sometimes. Right now we are going to start poking around here in this general direction and working our way down into the trees. And once we get in there, we know the powder is good and cold, and there are plenty of pillows, cliffs, and terrain features that we're gonna start stacking shots in. The number one thing I need out of my gear when I'm shooting action sports is consistency and reliability. A lot of things that are happening very quickly, and they're unrepeatable. And a lot of times the athletes are sort of putting themselves on the line, and it's incumbent on me to make sure that I'm getting my shots, that my cameras are working right.
The EM1 Mark II features a 121-point hybrid autofocus system with advanced tracking capabilities. Its maximum shooting rate of 18 frames per second using the E-shutter and 10 using the mechanical with continuous autofocus provides a high degree of versatility. As well as stills, the EM1 Mark II can also shoot 4K video at 24, 25, and 30p. With an ultra high-resolution cinema mode, it can capture 24p video at 237 megabits per second. This, coupled with the in-body stabilization, makes the EM1 Mark II an impressively capable video camera, especially in situations where a large video rig would be impractical.
So Scott, we're here. We just came down a nice powder run. We've got our athletes up there. What are we doing?
So one of the sort of go-to moves for shooting powder riding is getting a long lens and a really clean line of sight and having the athlete come directly towards the camera. We'll have the continuous focus tracking on this on the low-speed electronic shutter.
What kind of shutter speed are you looking at?
The default exposure setting for shooting snow anytime, midday is 1,000th at 5.6. All right, Scotty!
We're also joined today by our guide, Scott Newsom from Eagle Pass heli skiing. He's on double duty, keeping us safe and acting as another subject for our photos.
Tack sharp. Dan, we got Drew up here on top of this cliff. He's going to take off the little ledge system. He's got a air over some of the trees and rocks, and then he will hopefully find the sweet spot landing.
That sounds terrifying, but let's do it.
Dropping! Nice one. Now we're gonna put Lindsay on this big snow panel right here, making one big slashy surf turn. The cool thing about it is the focal distance between us and that isn't gonna change at all while she's doing it. And so you can have a single focus point, and that opens up faster frame rates. So I'm gonna go with the mechanical shutter, but on high speed.
Cool.
That's why you bring Lindsay Dyer on a ski trip. Nails every turn.
At the end of the first run, we found the landing zone for the helicopter and set up for a few landscape shots. For those times when 20 megapixels isn't enough, the E-M1 Mark II's high-res shot mode can create 50 megapixel RAW files by combining multiple exposures.
I've shot a lot of Micro Four Thirds cameras, and at some point you run into resolution issues, especially when you start trying to print them big. But this thing has a super cool high-res mode, shifts the sensor around and gets a lot more data. So I wanted to check that out, and I don't have a tripod in the field, but I'm just gonna use my backpack as a steady platform, shoot the high-res mode, see how it goes.
The next morning, it was time to hit the resort.
Good morning. We're in Revelstoke, Canada. It's opening day of the Revelstoke Mountain Resort. This place is famous for its massive lift line on opening day, but it brings a good party every year.
One of the things I like about Revelstoke, the ski area, is it's perched right above the town, and so when you're up on the mountain, you're looking down over a beautiful river valley.
Welcome to Revelstoke 2016. We got Scott Rickenberger, the best in the business, sitting here on the chair. You're with us.
All right, so we made it through the lift line. What are we doing now?
We are gonna go and hunt some powder. So Drew and Lindsay and I are gonna take off for a little bit and get some shots in the bag while it's getting good.
That sounds good.
While Scott took the talent out to get some shots in the rugged terrain around the resort,
Woohoo!
we opted for the bunny slopes. It was a great chance to try the 5-axis image stabilization.
We kind of ducked over into some terrain toward the edge of the resort and worked on finding the big clean patches of powder in the trees. The snow was light and deep. Beautiful powder skiing images, which are always so fun to get.
After Scott had his shots for Eddie Bauer in the bag, we met up for one last setup. Perched on a steep hill at the top of the resort, we had a perfect scenario to try out the new Pro Capture mode.
We set up a shot that I really liked where I got into sort of a cave underneath a cliff that had icicles hanging down.
One of the challenges of doing this is that you can't see exactly when the athlete is gonna come into your frame. Sometimes, by the time you see him and pull the trigger, you're kind of too late and you've missed a lot of the key images. So this camera has a Pro Capture mode, which is interesting. It actually is constantly buffering if the shutter's halfway depressed, and then it will retroactively keep 14 frames, so you may get shots that you conventionally would have missed. Okay, Drew, action! These are all the frames that exist, frame, 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 and then he appears.
I think everything about working in the mountain winter environment is sort of inherently challenging. Hard to stay warm, it's hard to stay dry, it's hard to keep your gear working perfectly, it's not for the faint of heart. My goal for my work is always to do everything I can to make sure that I'm pushing the line and elevating the work beyond just making pictures to making art. Being out in the mountains, whether it's for work or for pleasure, for me it's just the place where I feel like I'm sort of most fully realized as a person. But mostly I just like the fresh air, I like the views, I like the people, and every day out's a good day.
Over the 2 days, we put the camera through some of the most extreme conditions you could imagine. Spraying snow, freezing temperatures, and even the occasional smack on the ground. It held up when a lot of other cameras wouldn't have, and helped us come back with some great shots.
Taste of freedom right here, boys.
For DP Review, I'm Dan Mercaya.